Shout out StatGuy.
The majesty.
Oh my goodness. It's professional wrestling.
1,000% confirmed. Not mage.
Stay mage and enjoy yourself.
It's Cheap Heat with Peter Rosenberg, featuring Stat Guy Greg and Dip.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cheap Heat Live, Pro Wrestling Nation 24/7. I, of course, put the 24/7 in Pro Wrestling Nation 24/7. I'm for your forever 24/7 champion, Peter Rosenberg. I am being joined today from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, by the physically large Stat Guy Greg. SEG, how are you?
Yeah, I haven't been associated with the number 156 for a very long time. Me being physically large as I am, I would have been happy to go up to like a 260 something.
I was going to say we could have been channel 256, easy for you.
That sounds a little bit better, but we're here.
And joining us from Los Angeles, the Magent himself, 38 at 35, Dipperstein. Hey, Dip, you're on live radio. How you doing?
I got to tell you, that's the exact weight that I actually am, 156. So I hopefully won't go above that, but that's actually my weight right now.
156. I mean, Dip is like a heavy-set sixth grader. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show today. We're super excited to be here. Super excited for all the people hearing us for the first time, and of course for the longtime peckerheads who have been with us down since day one-ish. We appreciate you. We like to talk about pro wrestling and all sorts of other things as well. We're going to get into many different things from the world of pro wrestling. And at 1 o'clock, very excited in the 1 o'clock hour today, because we are heard every single Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Eastern time, or maybe you're listening to the replay, which airs from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. And yes, we are live on this July 4th. That's why I'm wearing the festive Lex Luger. This is as patriotic a shirt as I own, is this classic 93-ish Lex Luger shirt. Before we get into wrestling, Dip, I heard you had a harrowing experience at the Genesis dealership in Los Angeles. We need to dig into what happened here.
Well, I mean, you make the appointment. You make the appointment for the service. You know, I think the appointment was at 10:20, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there until 5 o'clock. I had a full-blown curb moment. You know, when Larry's at the doctor's office and he says, they tell him that, we take the patients as they come in, and he says, what's the point of the appointment then? That's literally the exact moment I had that exact moment yesterday at the car dealership. And then they tell me, not only did I need an oil change, I also need a tire rotation. Do you know what that is? Do you know what a tire rotation even is?
Yeah,
they have to rotate the tires.
Yeah, it's like, what do? They just spin the tire? Is that what?
SEG, they're moving the tire from one position to another.
They take the tires in the back and they put them in the front. They take the front tires, move them in the back, because when you're driving, one set of tires, I think the front tires do more of the work. So then they run down faster.
How do you know this?
You have to balance by rotating the tires so that they tread out evenly, and then it extends the life of the tires. Otherwise, your front tires will be so worn down and your back tires won't, and then you can end up buying two tires there. You can just get the four of them at the same time when they all need to go out.
I thought it was like a Price is Right thing where they literally just spin the tire like they do the wheel. I mean, just to make sure it's, just to make sure they're rotating correctly.
I know, and then it's even crazier when they had you do a Plinko chip replacement later.
Yeah, Plinko. They might as well. If they would have said to me, on your bill also, you'll see a Plinko chip. We had to replace the Plinko chips.
Yeah, Dip said I rotated the tires on the way in here. I drove. How do you think they got here? They rotated the whole way.
And people like me and Dip are at such a disadvantage at the car dealership. You have no idea what's going on. But you leased the car, right?
Yeah, the car's leased, of course.
Do they cover these things?
I didn't think they covered it because I saw online that it cost $300, $600. Who knows it? Things, hundreds and hundreds of dollars for these things. Right. And I went in there thinking I'm blowing $1,000 today on God knows what, and they ended up covering it. So God bless.
There you go.
I thought it was going to be $1,000 day. It was a nothing day. It was a sign for this please day. Fantastic.
Yep. Still this.
Yeah, no, that is the reason I lease to this day. I love leasing for that exact reason. Dip, I did not have any bagels here. I'm out at the summer residence on Long Island. I did not go to get a bagel or some Armor All or some OxyClean. I went to the Irish restaurant in honor of us having Seamus on. I had an Irish breakfast, which was delightful.
What, with a pint? Did you have a pint?
The Irish breakfast, there's no pint, but it's eggs. It's this Irish bread. I mean, there might have been 500 carbs in this piece of bread. You've never seen bread like this in your life. It's beans. By the way, I've noticed a lot of things. A lot of the things that they sell at the Irish restaurant, they just put the word Irish in front of it, and then it's Irish. So I got the Irish cheese. I got the Irish beans. I got the Irish bread.
Oh my! I love this. I love this bit.
But by the way, it is a great place. We got to go. I want to bring Seamus there one day. All right.
Is this next to the place where the place where you can get lighters and zins and also bagels?
I don't know if they sell zins at the bagel store, but they probably do.
They're selling zins everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Now, real quick introduction to the show, and for everyone listening on the podcast, just a real quick breakdown of how everything works, and we'll open the phone lines right away. If you're listening, if you're an old school listener who made the switch and you're listening live on Sirius, give us a call, 877-344-4893, 877-344-4893. We got our producers, Zach and Ben, here holding it down with us. Emilio, of course, chopping the podcast and the audio later. But basically, Cheap Heat now, we've been around SGG over 10 years, correct?
I've been here 10 years, and I was a listener for years before that. So I'd say well over 10 years at this point.
So it's something like maybe 13 years. And essentially, were you here before Dip, or was I already with Dip?
I think it might have been by months. You were already with Dip.
For a few months.
And then I showed up after, yeah.
So I was doing a podcast with the great David Shoemaker, one of the foremost writers in wrestling and now podcasters, the Mass Man. We started this show called Cheap Heat many years ago with Grantland, and we're doing it for a while. And my other podcast co-host, I do a hip-hop podcast called Juan Epstein, the first ever hip-hop podcast. And Cypher Sound said, I have this lawyer, and he's a big fan of your podcast. Can he come sit in one day? And that lawyer turned out to be StatGuy Greg. And SGG showed up to a show to hang out one day. Was it the first day you hung out, or you'd hung out several days before I put you on the air?
I think it was the first day you put me on the air, because we spoke out also off the podcast about the role that I kept the name, but I no longer do, which was basically Tony Reality's role in Party Interruption. Dating myself,
but that couldn't have been the first day then, because I would have had to have met you and seen that you're not a lunatic before I suggested maybe you come back and do stuff,
met
right?
me beforehand, and then you were like, "Oh yeah, this is when we're recording. Come through," and then we did, and then you put me on the air on my first episode.
I still have you in my phone as Greg the Virgin Valentine.
Wow,
you're still in my phone as that. I'm not going to change it. It's classic.
And by the way, Sam is in my phone as and Sam is in my phone as Sam the Jew Roberts. Not Jewish. I am. Anyways. So SGG shows up on a day that happened to be the day that the first horrible Hulk Hogan racist stuff came out. And me and Shoemaker are sitting there talking about it, and I'm like, we do have a black man who loves professional wrestling who's standing in the room with us. You want to tell us what you're feeling? And SGG jumped on and has literally never let go of the microphone since.
Yeah. And I won't. 10,000 terrible, horrendous, horrible wrestling takes later, he's still here.
I thought you were going to say 10,000 horrible Hulk Hogan moments later, but no, 10,000 horrible takes. SGG is still here. No stats, but lots of takes. No. And then Dipperstein, around that same period, Dipperstein and I met. He was an agent at ICM. We met backstage at Rock the Bells. I was wearing a Jake Roberts watch. Dip was like, "What the hell is that?"
I knew what it was, but I couldn't believe it was on your body.
Have it,
So I said, "Yeah, this is a Jake Roberts watch." Long story short, he ends up representing me at ICM and then CAA, and now he's my manager and the manager of many greats and near greats in pro wrestling. And he's ended up just being on the program as well. So, and then you have me. I've been a long-time radio guy, but most importantly, a wrestling fan who, when I got to New York to be on Hot 97 in 2007, started doing a lot of interviews with WWE superstars at a time in which many there weren't a lot of outlets to do that. By the way, did I tell you guys what Randy Orton said to Natalie at Fanatics Fest?
No. What did he say?
So at Fanatics Fest in New York a couple of weeks ago, I'm hosting the WWE SummerSlam kickoff event, and I'm backstage with Natalie, my wife, and our baby Maya, and Randy Orton walks by. And let me just say, if you've never been physically near Randy Orton, it's like
The man's
a movie.
neck.
It's almost you can't even overstate how gigantic a man Randy Orton has become. He is a superhero. And he walks by, and I say hello to him, and I say, Randy, this is my wife and my baby. And he goes, oh, wow, and so he RKOs my daughter, my 5-month-old daughter, out of nowhere. And as we're sitting there, he says to my wife, he's like, we really, he's like, I really love your husband. Like, he's been around and giving us a platform since before anybody was doing it. And like, he's just always been there. And I was like, I didn't know you felt this way, Randy Orton. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It was so lovely.
Randy pays attention.
I think he does.
Is Randy a Pete guy?
Randy is a Pete guy.
There's a distinction between people that call Peter Rosenberg and people that say Pete. There's a distinction, and we call them Pete guys.
It's a big distinction. And later on in the show, when Sheamus joins, he goes back and forth. So you're gonna have to really decipher whether he's a Pete or a Peter guy. But I'll guarantee you one thing: he's a big name sayer. He will say my name at the end of sentences almost every time. He's a big name guy, Sheamus.
That's because he's a pro. When they get clipped, he want people to know he's talking to Peter Rosenberg.
Damn right.
That's right. He goes, Peter, would you like a pint, Peter? Or Pete, would you like a pint, Peter? Peter, let's have a pint, Peter. Lots of pints and Peters. Lots of things that start with P.
So many pints, so many Pete's. Wow, we have big listeners right now listening to the program. Natalie Rosenberg is listening to the program. This is going to shock the world. Andrew Goldstein is listening to the podcast. Can you welcome back, Goldie? He's back.
Wow. All the Dippersteins are listening. That I can tell you right now.
Oh, guaranteed. My first ever wrestling podcast was hosted with Goldie when we did the Total Nonstop podcast for TNA 15 years ago. What a world that was. Let me tell you guys, when I was doing the TNA podcast in like 08, 09, I cannot tell you how far away TNA felt from WWE. And now, if you like get signed to TNA, you can believe, like, in short order, if things go well, I could be in WWE. Like, it's so crazy how closely connected these things are. So we'll get some into that as the program goes on. Now, if you want to connect with us on social media, first of all, SGG, what is our Instagram page?
At Cheap Heat Pod on Instagram.
Do we have to update that? Like, should we change it to Cheap Heat Live? I mean,
I think we have to. This
is like when SmackDown became SmackDown Live. We're Cheap Heat
just
Live
like that.
now.
It's exactly like that. It's the same thing.
On Patreon, we have a Patreon page where we do watch-alongs. We watch old classic stuff. And now, because of the timing of this show airing on Fridays, we'll do some episodes earlier in the week on Tuesdays so we can break down Raws and stuff like that. Our Patreon is patreon.com/staymage. And my wife wants to remind everyone her name is Miss Hatton on Instagram, okay? Not Natalie Rosenberg. She is at Miss Hatton. Now, SGG, you claimed last week or 2 weeks ago, maybe it was already, that Seth Rollins and LA Knight had a thing going on.
Yeah.
Dip made clear he did not see that as a feud. I agreed with Dip, by the way. I did not see that as a feud. But now we found out we will get Seth Rollins and LA Knight a week from tomorrow at Saturday night's main event. Are you taking a victory lap on this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here's why. Look, I was right at the time that I made the statement that Seth Rollins and LA Knight were embroiled in a feud. And like I said, he was in that Money in the Bank match. They targeted each other more than anybody else. Seth's crew came out to stop one guy. It was LA Knight. LA Knight continued to feud with Seth and his crew, and then he pops up on Monday with a big old thing of popcorn. He attacks Seth, and now they have a match. It's a feud. It's been a feud. It's a feud this whole time.
It's been a feud. They're feuding them. How about this? What do you feel about my pushback that when they get the match on Saturday night's main event, instead of us building towards something else, it's not a feud. It's the definition of in-between feuds.
In between
Feud of Jays?
Still feuds.
Feud of Jays. Feud of Jays. That's
Many
what I'm saying.
feuds are still feuds. Many feuds are still feuds. And look, let's face it, right? This is Seth's first singles match since WrestleMania. It's his first singles match on the Free LE Saturday night's main event. It's with LA Knight.
Really? I like that.
Thank you. Everything Seth does is big time. So LA Knight and Seth, it's big time, and it's a feud. Seth Rollins is not a guy they waste on these little one-off matches. I think it is going to be a one-match feud, but this has been a feud.
All right, let me ask you guys this. Let's move to CM Punk for a moment. Punk loses the match, the schmazole, of course, against John Cena, as every Cena match is. And now the question is, what happens with CM Punk? Does he rightfully go back to him and Seth Rollins end up against each other? Or is John Cena not done with CM Punk, you think, Dip? Are we going to get more Punk Cena?
No, I think this is the end of the road. I think eventually you move now over to Cody Cena and they start building that for SummerSlam. I mean, that seems like the logical situation to me. And then you have the other title, that's on Gunther, and then CM Punk maybe floats over to that situation, which kind of makes more sense to me. But yes, I think I have no idea. I think most likely, that situation is over, which frankly I'm okay with. How many months do we have left of Cena?
Speaking of things moving over to the other title, SGG. What's the likelihood of Seth Rollins cashing in at Saturday night's main event to take that World Heavyweight Championship?
I think it's low. Because I think what's going to happen is Punk is going to move on to Gunther, that World Championship. He might even get his hands on it, but at some point, Seth is going to cash in again and take the title again and become world champion. I think he's going to end up cashing on that World Heavyweight Championship, whoever that champion may be.
I just wonder whether they're going to they want to get to some stakes between Seth and Punk sooner than later. But really, they don't need title. Seth and CM Punk could have a big match at SummerSlam without any title involvement. Here's what fundamentally becomes my issue. And I think if you read the rumors, apparently they say Triple H sort of has mixed feelings about the briefcase as well. The briefcase is an albatross that hangs over everything. So immediately now, when I think of Seth Rollins and what he's going to do next, it's always in context of the briefcase. But the truth is, him and CM Punk could have a really meaningful match. Their story already exists. They can just roll right into SummerSlam. And you're right, we'll get the two main events we'd get would be Cena, Cody, and Seth and Punk. And then there would be, some World Heavyweight Championship match. But I don't see why Seth has to be near the championship yet, except for the fact that the briefcase sort of dictates that he needs to be. So we'll see as we get closer. Dip and I did a Patreon episode after Night of Champions, and we talked a bit about what happened. SGG, do you feel like we are going to get the true Jade Cargill singles push? Is this going to be the true look to see if Jade Cargill has what it takes to be a big single star in WWE?
I think we will. But I have to say, after Jade Cargill won Queen of the Ring, I saw a lot of the conversation online was about how AEW presented her. And I think I agree with all the chatter that AEW presented her the way she needed to be presented. They had her dominant, booked like Goldberg in these short matches, title wins, and I think these longer sort of showcase matches for Jade haven't been as strong as the booking of Jade like a Goldberg.
It is. There is a risk when you put someone, like, no matter how you cut it with Jade, she is very quick to tell you her career started, her first ever match was on TV. Okay. She is not super experienced no matter how you cut it. So I do hear you that when you put her in big matches with people like Asuka that go 20 minutes, and I asked the question last week, was she really just a great performer in that ring at Night of Champions, or was she completely blown up beyond belief? I think it's unclear. But Dip, I don't hate that point that, like, would it be the worst thing for her as a singles competitor to just blow through people for a while?
No, I mean, the issue that they've had with Jade is she looks unbelievable. She's physically dominant. She, looks like she's capable of beating anyone, but has lost a few times. Am I wrong? I mean,
right.
She's taken a few L's, right, Greg?
No, she has. She's not undefeated.
So she's the type of person who looks like she's not going to lose to anybody. So it's either you put her with someone who is just as physically imposing or muscular or whatever, or you have her just go, either that, or you have her run through everyone, or you have her run through everyone and then finally meet her match. Maybe it's Charlotte Flair or something like that. So for now, it's the Jade should be dominant and unbeatable and feel unbeatable, and they should do what they did when she first came in. They should do what they didn't do when she first came in, which was make her sort of the unbeatable babyface.
Yeah, and by the way, Queen of the Ring would have been the perfect way to do it, because you could have booked it in a way where, with some sort of chicanery, someone gets to the finals who physically looks like they just shouldn't be in there with Jade, like a Zelina or a Bliss, and she just crushes them. And then she gets Queen of the Ring and gets to be this dominant Queen of the Ring, and you didn't really have to bury anyone along the way.
Yeah, maybe she gets a heater. Maybe she gets someone to, like, I don't know. Maybe she needs a heater that would make her feel even more dominant. But this is the time. If you're going to put Jade on that level of, the Biancas and the Beckys and the Charlotte, like that top tier, you gotta, make that run today. Now is the moment to pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, I don't think she needs a heater, but what I do think is that, a thing that happens with a lot of these women's matches is people pull the stopwatch out and they say, oh, this match wasn't that important because it was 2 minutes, or this match wasn't that important because it was whatever. I grew up on these 2-minute matches with, like, Brett has some 5-minute matches that I love. I don't care about the stopwatch. I care about how they're presented in that showcase. And
of course,
Jade needs these dominant wins over big names, especially she's one match away from the championship.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what they do here, because you don't want to force her into marathon match one after another. I think she will get exposed for her inexperience.
Yeah. I think they need to slow play her unbeatability. That's the move with her now.
Well, by the way, that is the one thing about AEW that I always give them credit for. They are down to slow play a story. They will, like, the Jade thing took forever, win week after week after week after week. Listen, sometimes, of course, it goes too long. But in the case of someone like her, I think you'd rather go too long than too short.
I do like the idea of Naomi cashing in and becoming champ and walking into SummerSlam as champ to face Jade Cargill. We all thought about it the other way when we were discussing it, of her cashing in on maybe new champ Jade Cargill, but going in the other way as champ is huge.
Well, but Jade is supposed to get her title shot of her choice at SummerSlam, correct?
She's supposed to get the title shot. She's on SmackDown, so she gets her title shot at whoever is holding that championship. So it could be Tiffany Stratton.
But does it have to be SummerSlam, or is it just a title shot?
It is
SummerSlam.
at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
So it'll be I just don't know how we'd get there then. But go ahead.
I was just going to say, the idea of having a cash-in, the women's cash-in at Evolution, is really interesting. And I think they should do it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And P, let me help you out. So
that's a good idea.
Sorry, Dip. Jade's title shot is tied to the title that Tiffany Stratton has. So whoever is the champion, she gets that title shot at SummerSlam. And like Drake said, if Naomi cashes in and she's holding that title going into SummerSlam, the story's there. The history is there. The intrigue is there.
And it's a great call, Dip, because let's say Tiffany calls out whoever for Evolution. She gets beat up in that match. Naomi cashes in. Naomi gets the title. Naomi gets to SummerSlam. If Bianca is good by then physically. And you could then get Jade then says, well, I'm getting my shot, but Bianca finds a way to demand getting into the match, maybe wins her way into that match. And yeah, you get a triple threat potentially between the three of them would be awesome too.
Don't forget what the date is today, though. It's July 4th, and SummerSlam is only 4 weeks away. So if you can get there in 4 weeks, great. It seems unlikely to be able to get there in 4 weeks, with all of those things coming to fruition. But the idea, look, the Jade being more mage situation is making the women's division on SmackDown really interesting, because you have Tiffany, who is due for people to start booing. You have Naomi with the briefcase. You have Jade, who's the queen. All of a sudden, something's going on. It feels like there's something going on. Does that sound right?
Totally fair. Totally fair. All right. Speaking of something going on, we're down to the final 9 minutes of this hour, and of course, Sheamus coming in. Again, first time I've gotten a chance to really sit down and pick the brain of the great Sheamus, who's having, to me, one of the best runs of his career right now. Before that, though, I want to get a couple of takes, things that you guys have wanted to get off your chest that you haven't gotten a chance to yet. SGG, what's on your mind from this week that we haven't hit yet?
I feel almost terrible saying this, because everybody who's been calling in and talking about how they've been listening to the show, they know. Look, I love Roman Reigns, and I'm not afraid to say it.
We know.
But after Night of Champions, I feel like Solo Sikoa, Ulafala or not, he is the tribal chief. Roman just put together his cousins, brought in Solo. That was his bloodline. It was strong. They had Sammy, strong bloodline. But Solo is actually touring the islands, bringing in people from different Polynesian islands and consolidating his power with the Hawaiian Jeff Cobb. 3 Tongans. They had Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, and now they got an even taller Tongan to join them.
Taller Tonga.
Jacob Fatu, Bronson Reed. Solo, he's not just a top guy in the new United States champion. I think he really is the tribal chief.
That's fine, Greg, but but like it's becoming. Here's the thing with the bloodline: it's becoming its own ecosystem. It's like, instead of speculating like about the bloodline itself, now we're just speculating about who's going to eventually come out of the bloodline. Who's going to have their moment to come out of the bloodline? It's like, oh, Jacob Fatu doesn't need it anymore. We're ready for him to move on. The conversation is now who's going to move on from the bloodline, and then they keep adding members. It's kind of an odd thing. It's like the circle of life.
It is the circle of life.
Well, by the way, and you do get into dangerous territory here, where it does start to like feel like late days NWO, and like keeping track of who's who could become a bit much. And I said this a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, but it's not great. I mean, at some point here, you do risk it just losing its impact, right? At a certain point. I think you'd say right now, it's already not the dominant story that it used to be. And I think one issue I have with that also is, I know that Solo Sikoa is very funny. Like his comedic chops and his style is unique and different and funny. The problem is, when he's too funny, he loses authority. And like I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, guys, Solo doesn't feel like a badass anymore. He used to be the heater. Now he needs 9 other Tongans to help him anytime he's going to win a match. I know. To me, it's a bit of a problem.
You're not wrong.
I don't think it's a problem, because this is what Roman was, right? Like, he used to be the heater, and now he needed 9 other Samoans to keep him on top, all the while developing his personality, showing that more charismatic side, being a different guy than we were used to before. And I think in the long run, it's going to help Solo.
He needs a new look, Solo, I think. I don't know. Something. I need him to feel more authoritative than he does.
The boots didn't do it enough?
No, I need something else. I need something else
look
to
on the
make
bright
him
side.
feel authoritative.
Look on the bright side. Dip, you used to talk about where it looked like Gunther shopped. Where is JC Mateo shopping? JC Penney.
Burlington Coat Factory, I think, is that's where I think he's. I think that's what's going on there.
Dip, all right. What did you want to get off your chest today before the day is done?
I just wanted to say the Judgment Day of it all, which I know a lot of people have like sort of been like meh about in this new incarnation. I think this could turn into the most interesting incarnation of the Judgment Day. Everybody loves a relationship story. Liv and Dom were at their hottest when they were together. Same thing with Rhea and Dom. It's whatever. So what you have here is you're going to have a returning Dom, a returning Liv from injuries. And, you know, it's obvious to me what should be going on in this little Judgment Day situation. Rhea, who's a little lost in translation right now, we're not exactly sure what's going to be. She should 100% be teaming with Liv. Dom all of a sudden becomes Roxanne Perez's love interest. And you have Dom on a pole match, Dom in the cage match at SummerSlam. You have Roxanne Perez and Raquel versus Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan at SummerSlam. And Dom is in the cage. Beautiful. Done. See you at SummerSlam.
First of all, you guys know how I feel about Raquel. I mean, about Roxanne. I'm sorry. Just like I believe so much in Stephanie Vaquer, Roxanne is she's already there. I mean, she is just the real deal. Her and Dom make so much sense together. We know now where this is going. She will have fully replaced Liv Morgan as not only Raquel's tag partner, but also Dom's girlfriend. It forces Liv to become a babyface, which everyone will be ready for, and she'll probably
We're ready for the babyface run.
And it'll be the babyface run of a lifetime for her, because instead of her just being like her only character is like that she's an underdog, now she has a real story to build on here. So I'm with you. Also, you know, it feels like just recently we were on the verge of saying it's time to move on with the Judgment Day. It feels like between the tag title win for Finn and McDonough and Roxanne, it feels like there's been new life injected into the Judgment Day.
Listen, they got all the gold. You cannot move on from them and just break that up and rush to an ending.
No.
Now that they have all the gold. I will say, though, I like the idea of Dom staying with Liv. What if he gets ousted because he chooses Liv and then they go on a babyface run together?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. But I like the idea of now there's two. I like the idea of Raquel and Roxanne being like the heel tag team with Dom. And Rhea doesn't really have a story right now that is just making us tune in every week to see her. So the idea of injecting her back into the Judgment Day with Liv, and they're both scorned against Dom, that's good TV, in my opinion.
Guys, we are going to do a Patreon that will drop early next week. Patreon.com/StayMage. If you're not already down with it, come join us there. We love you guys. Stay Mage. Join us in the Discord. Send your emails, of course, as well to rosenbergwrestling@gmail.com. And then, SGG, enjoy yourself.
Take it easy, fellas.